of viewership. Hello, everybody. Oh my God, we went live. It always goes live right as I'm freaking talking. Hello. I know, right? Hello, everybody. I'm like, I hope everybody can hear me in this. Are we good? Can everybody hear me? All right. Can you hear me? Fantastic.
I can.
Good job. Oh, I love my microphone. I just want to talk about that for a second. For anybody out there who does something like this, and I'm sure you can understand because you podcast, and I'm sure you have a phenomenal microphone. There's nothing more beautiful than one of these. And I've been like praying for one of these for a long time. So I'm very happy to have one. All right, you guys. Hello and welcome to the Tough Woman Table. One thing I have to share is we are on episode 88 of the story episodes, which is really, really exciting because tomorrow's my birthday for anybody who didn't know, but that's not really, I was born in 88 and you are episode 88.
Oh, very cool.
I thought, I believe heavily in like numerology and stuff like that, you know, all those things. And, so that numerology there was really interesting. So 4/8 makes me happy here. All right, you guys, as you guys come in, say, hey, let us know how you're doing. I am so excited to have this conversation because, I just really love your vibe, and I think it's going to be a fun conversation. So, all right, as you guys come in, say, hey, let us know how you're doing. Please make sure to join in the conversation. I don't feel like I say this enough, so I hope as you come in, you recognize that you are just as much allowed to be a part of this conversation as the guest, myself, and anybody else who comes on here. I always feel that it's important for everybody to have their voice at the table, and it's through us asking questions and engaging that we can really begin to create those connections with each other. So you guys, please feel free to connect, join in, ask questions, drop comments. If you catch us on the replay, hashtag replay. And if you love us as much as I think you guys do, because all of you are just amazing people, please share this episode for us. Make sure to check us out on YouTube at the Tough Woman Table, as well as the Tough Woman Podcast. And y'all, please stay tuned as this show continues to grow as we transition into Amazon TV, Apple TV, and Roku come October 1st. So freaking excited for the Tough Woman Table to become a TV show, like a legitimate TV show. So, all right, you guys, I'm going to drop into my epic intro. I'm going to introduce my epic guest, and we're going to have an epic conversation, all right? So, hello and welcome to the Tough Woman Table, you guys. I'm my own sound box. All right. This is the table where I invite some super badass, tough women like Gabi here to take a seat, join in the conversation, and share her amazing story. At Tough Woman, I believe that all women have the power within themselves to live life authentically, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered to go out and create a life that sets their soul on fire. I share this belief by championing tough women who have walked through the fire, felt the fear, faced adversity, and kept pushing through it all. Women who now live the life they want as the woman they were created to be, and women who own their stories so other women can embrace and own theirs as well. Because as we all know, and as you guys are going to hear me saying in the very near future on TV, when you give yourself permission to own and share your story, you give someone else permission in the same breath. So without further ado, let's drop in today's episode, Resilient Heart, right? I got that right? I was wanting to say resiliency. Resilient Heart. You guys, this is my guest, Gabi Garland, a woman of many hats. When I got your thing, I couldn't figure out what title you wanted the most, so I went with relationship coach. It was like relationship coach, podcaster, speaker, you know, all these things. And I'm like, oh, right. So I'm going to let you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, what all do you do, and who do you work with?
Let's see. So I am a mom and a wife, which is I'm almost 3 years into my marriage. And sometimes it's still weird because I was a single mom for so long that I automatically like revert to like, oh, I'm a single mom. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I'm a married mom. Like, it's very weird, that transition. But I started a podcast. This is actually the 7th day of my podcast since it's launched, and we're pushing up on 1,000 downloads. So I don't have a huge social media presence. I'm kind of, you know, happy in my own little corner. And so to have seen and the opening weekend run out and be number 112 right out the gate was pretty exciting for me, because that was not something I had anticipated. What do I do? I work with women. So I've been coaching and consulting and with women for like 7 years. And it hasn't been until recently that I was like, I'm going to do my own program. I really wanted to dig into some things that some trauma things that women deal with, and things that I've gone through, things that have helped me. And so I kind of took about a year and a half off from working in that sense. And I did a lot of training, a lot of life coach stuff. And so I'm really excited to just like pour all of that into my coaching and consulting program, which I haven't, it's not going to start until October. But I already have 6 girls that have booked a spot, and that was all I was going to do on my initial one. So I may end up doing an additional. So it's kind of wild.
That's awesome. Well, it's just a testament to when you're really living in your alignment, in your flow, you know, things just come. I think something that resonated with me earlier, and I feel resonates with this, is we talk so much about the hustle culture, and we're programmed to be busy, busy, busy. And if we're, you know, if we're not hitting these milestones, then we're not successful. Okay. And when in the reality is, it's the most important thing is to recognize that we must honor ourselves first. Mm-hmm. And by honoring ourselves first, we therefore attract to us the things that are meant for us. I know that when especially when actually, like when I got started coaching, when I started the whole business, really, I actually started as a podcast. This whole thing was like always my favorite story to tell people. It's like, this is always a podcast. And I got really far away from it. But then like doing the show and everything reminded me, like, really when I'm in flow is when I get to do this, when I get to connect with people, when I get to do and create those connections and those, you know, the networks and build the bridges. And it's, you know, when you're in that most alignment, I think that people will realize that we are going to bring about the life that we really want to live. So I think it's really important to have stories like yours that remind people, like, you know, sometimes it isn't about the busyness or the do. Sometimes it's about, what do I need to do right now to further my purpose? So, all right, let us begin with my first favorite question. So what is your story?
My story. Let's see. And initially I never really told people a lot about this, but I was held back in 5th grade. I dropped out of high school. I dropped out of college twice. And I became a single mom at 21. Her father was extremely abusive. I actually left him when I was pregnant. I left him. My dad flew out and got me, and we drove home from Florida to New Mexico. And I had my daughter 2 days later once we got to New Mexico. So there's a whole bunch of things wrapped in that, like domestic violence and abuse and mental health and all these things. But it was this very big decision that changed everything for me. And so it was just me and my daughter for a really long time. He passed away when she was 4 in a motorcycle accident, which was honestly something that was really a relief for me, because we'd always had a tumultuous relationship. Things were really difficult. I had wanted to move on, was kind of trying to move on, and he was really difficult about it. And so there was grief, and then there was guilt associated with it. So there was all kinds of things to unpack there. And then I was just single. I was working like crazy, 60 plus hours a week. My daughter was never seeing me. And in 2013, you know, it was one of those scroll through your Facebook feed. And it was, you know, I went to a hosted party for this company that a girlfriend had for her wedding. And I was like, oh, this girl does this. I was like, I can do this. And it kind of changed the course for me as far as 9 to 5s. Got to the top 1% of the company, multiple 6 figures, loved it, got it completely burned out and burned and wounded and all of those things. And so I just resigned, took some time for myself, did a lot of healing. And so that's the short version. And in the middle of all of that, I met my husband. We got married in 2017. And we had a long distance relationship. It was fun because I could travel anytime I wanted, because I had an online business. So we were back and forth for about a year and a half. And then we got engaged, got married, and we have a little boy who was born in March of 2019. And he has a heart defect. Well, he has several heart defects, but we knew at 20 weeks that he was going to require at least 2, most likely 3, potentially 4 heart surgeries, 2 of them being at birth or very soon after. And so it's been a hell of a ride. Like, I think my episode on my podcast today is about PTSD and about an appointment for him, and just kind of talking through what that looks like for somebody, and things to do to help you get out of that space. And so, yeah, that's kind of the short version.
I love that. And Terry says, hello, ladies. Hi. Hello, Terry. Oh man, that's someone, y'all, Terry, you should follow her. I feel like you guys have such a similar journey. Terry was actually the second episode of the show. So you
okay.
Yeah. But she was at it was interesting because I love the show for that reason. I got to see her go through this one thing, and she went through this very crazy, tumultuous, abusive situation and came out of it. And now she's, utilizing that to help other women in the same way. So
that's amazing. Yes, definitely want to connect.
Oh, she says, wow, that story hits so hard. All right. So let's talk about first and foremost about what it is to come out of an abusive domestic violence relationship. And what I really want to really ask you about is understanding the grief and guilt associated with an abusive, like you said, your ex dying and stuff, and you went through this grief and this guilt, because especially with I've had the privilege to run about 6 domestic violence episodes through this show. And one of the things that's not highly talked about is having that grief and that remorse when something happens to an ex who was abusive to us, and how do we deal with that? So what was that journey like for you? Because I feel like there's a lot of women who are going to resonate, even though we leave, there's still sometimes that attachment, and we have to go through that healing. So what was that journey like for you, especially being a new mom and being in a totally different place from where you were before?
Right. I feel like there's all these layers to the way that I felt. So I grew up very Catholic, very strong faith. And so throughout everything that I was going through with him, with the abuse and all of that, because it started fairly early on in our relationship. I was like 6 years younger than him. He was my first serious boyfriend. We met online. I moved cross country, and the abuse didn't take long. And because I was so desperate to not be in my little town, I put up with it because he made good money and I was comfortable, and, all the things that you're supposed to get for the world to see. And then nobody knew, it wasn't when social media was really popular. So there was all these things going on behind the scenes, and we'd been, we just started a custody battle. And there was one night so I was working, he ended up moving to New Mexico from Florida. And there was one night where I was doing graveyards because I want to be home with my daughter during the day. And so he would keep her sometimes at night. And in the morning, he wanted to go to the zoo. And I was like, okay, well, I'm tired because I've worked a 12-hour shift. Like, I'm going to go to bed. And he was like, well, I'm just not going to tell you where we are then. Like, he basically had my daughter, and he was like, I'm not going to tell you where she is. And I'm really, really lucky in New Mexico. And part of the reason why I moved home, even though I didn't really want to, is I have a really connected family within politics and within the law enforcement. And so it was basically one quick phone call, and his car was surrounded within minutes. I got out of the car, got my kid, and left. And so it's been this wild ride. That was probably when she was around 2. We were in a little bit better of a place, at least getting along, when he actually passed away. And I remember for years praying I know it sounds horrible to even say it, even though I'm okay with that now, I'm at peace with it. But I used to pray for God to take him, because I was just like, I'm miserable. She can't be happy. He wasn't allowed to be alone with her by himself. So my dad was like a mediator, and it was just so messy and so unhappy for her. And so I would just pray, like, God, can you please just take him? Because this is so awful. I'm so miserable. I'm so unhappy. And we need to have peace. And then it happened. And I'm like, I am a fucking asshole. Like, who prays for someone to die? You know what I mean? But it was like, I just wanted peace. And then I got it. And then I felt horrible. And then there was all these things wrapped up in my faith and asking God for prayers. And then, I mean, it was a mind fuck. Like, I literally, like, that part was, grief wise, I was really struggling. And instead of it manifested in me being like a low-key alcoholic and getting in fights in bars. And I had 5 different fights in bars within like a 2-week period. And then the last one, I was like, okay, clearly I need therapy. Like, I was like, I can't just go in and keep beating people up in public. Like, I'm going to go to jail. And that's kind of where I started my therapy, my healing journey, and trying to figure out what I was worth outside of him, because I was so young. And I went from, kind of being in my parents' home, being on my own, and then moving in with him. And I just didn't really know who I was. At 25, he passed away. I was 25, he was 30. And then I had to learn how to like write my own bills and like all these things that people learn much younger. So it's been wild.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. So, and Terry says you prayed for peace, not his death. His relationship with God is what took him, not you. Hugs.
No, it is, but it didn't feel like that in that moment, because I was like in grief, because it's 9 years that he'd been in my life. So he was like the most significant person other than my daughter in my life. And then he was gone, and I was like, oh, so yeah.
Well, and that really resonates with me, because I went through a tumultuous custody battle with my daughter's father, and we're friends now. Luckily, but it was really, really bad. And at the time when it happened, the woman he was with, they were both addicted to methamphetamine. So it was just this, So when you say a mind fuck, like, and I remember this one point, and now I'm at peace. I don't tell a lot of people, because you definitely get looks when you say what I'm about to say. And I'm like, when you said that, I'm like, oh, I understand exactly what you're talking about. So, I remember at this one point, I had this dead moment of absolute clarity. And it's like, what if I just, I hope this never gets used against me as evidence in anything. Okay. What if I just, because he had really just like fucked my life up at that point. And what if I just went into his house and I just ended it. I just got rid of him, got rid of the wife, and I just took my daughter and I left. And I
had those thoughts too.
Yeah. I'm like, I had no remorse for what I was saying. I was at total peace. I was like, it's going to be all right. I'll do it. And I tell people that, and I say this because, you hear those shows where they're like, I just don't see how such a nice person could do something like that. I'm like, oh, I do.
Let me tell you a little story. Yeah.
There's a switch within us all. Don't you worry. There's a switch. So when you say that, yeah, I feel you right there. Cause that's a rough journey, especially when it's your kid. I think as a parent, you enter into a whole different level. And that's saying like your child is really just your heart walking around.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my God. It just, So, all right. So I want to talk a moment about what did your healing journey look like? Because something that really, really strikes me with resiliency is what it takes to become a resilient person. And it is, yes, that you get knocked down, but it's recognizing how to not get knocked down again the same way, and how to just keep bolstering yourself and keep reinforcing who you are as a person. So tell the audience a little bit about what your healing journey was like.
A lot of therapy, a lot of therapy. It wasn't until probably 5 or 6 years ago that I understood that I am an empath, and I'm also a medium. And so through my healing journey, those things started to really become more present in my life. And so there was lots of Reiki healing. There was lots of breath work. There was really looking at the people that I surrounded myself with, because I had gotten to a place with him that he completely destroyed my self-worth. And so for years, I picked men that were horrible human beings. None of them had been abusive physically after that relationship, but so many of them were just really unhealthy. And so sitting down with a therapist and really kind of figuring out, why are these things that I go for? What is my thoughts about who I am and what I'm worth? And what are the things that have been told to me growing up that have shaped me to feel this way about myself and to allow myself to be treated this way? And it was not fun. It was not fun to, really, it's kind of like, I talk a little bit about therapy on this last podcast episode. And I'm like, it's like, you rip open a wound that's healing and then you just like spew blood everywhere. And then you're just getting to like layers to kind of put it back together and feel better. And that's really what it felt like. And so I would say it probably took me about 5 years to stop being like the drunk girl that would cry at the party and when she had too much to drink, and all of these really messy I don't even know what you call them, outbreaks, whatever. It was so embarrassing. I was so embarrassed. It is now. I'm like, I'm fine with it, but now I'm like, oh my God, like, yuck.
Well, I don't think people recognize that what you don't deal with on the inside is going to manifest somewhere physically, or somewhere outside in your general sphere. Something is going to come about. I too had a similar awakening, and I was like, why my every guy that I dated up till my ex-husband, and my ex-husband included, was always an addict. There was always a vice. He was an addict too. Yeah, there was always something. And you get to that point, we went through our separation. I said, all right, this doesn't work. Like, in my, I don't think I got into fights at bars. I never, like, what a life. I never got into those. But, I remember like coming back from an ex-boyfriend's house who was a raging alcoholic who I shouldn't have been around. And I was drinking, and I was in a drinker. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, dude, this is not what you just left this. You just left this. Now you are that person. And so, it's really hard to take a look at yourself, because you really have to take a very outer perspective look at what it is you're doing. And you have to recognize that all of it starts from within you. So I want to talk a moment, because you really said something about, you had a lot to unpack also with growing up in your faith. And I grew up in Catholicism as well. My dad and my stepmom were devoutly Catholic. They are not now. They're no longer with the church. So I want to talk about, because you said as you grew up, as you kind of went through this journey, you recognized that you were an empath and a medium. And I know, especially, and I'm not tearing down the religion, but I know especially in these organized religions, these are things that are not widely accepted. Like, this is like a big fat no, you're going to go to hell. Yeah. Real fast. So I'd like you to dive into a little bit about what that journey was of knowing what it is that you grew up in, like your faith and all that, and what it was that coming into this other aspect of your journey, and potentially those constructs that you grew up in being challenged. What did that look like? Because I know right now, especially with the women in my field, I know so many women that we're all coming out of a religious background, and now we're going into things that we were told growing up, that's wrong. You can't do that. That's bad. You're going to go to hell. And there are so many women that are struggling with, like, I know that, but I'm afraid. Like, one of my best friends, she's got psychic capabilities, but she was raised devout Christian, and she was told she's going to go to hell. And I'm like, dude, you're going to make yourself sick, because you're not sitting here recognizing what's going on. So tell the audience a little bit about what that journey was to coming to peace with who you are naturally, outside of your constructs that were built around you as growing up.
Okay. So the kind of the spearhead point of it was not long after I had my daughter, and I was still, I got her baptized because that was important to me. And I was the only person they baptized like 5 or 6 babies, and she was the only baby that was there with a single mom. So it was, like I had the big scarlet red letter on my chest. And so it was one of those moments where I could just kind of feel them looking at me some type of way. And I ended up going to the church that I grew up in. And it was a new priest that I didn't really know very well, but it was my home church. And so I was basically like, I have just gotten out of this domestic violence relationship. I basically came to him looking for guidance. And he's like, well, where's your husband? And I was like, we're not married. And he was basically like, your kid's an abomination. I don't really like, he didn't have shit to say to me, because in his eyes, what I did was wrong. So I was kind of getting what I should get because I had a baby out of wedlock. And that for me was that turning point to be kind of done with organized religion. And I had gone back and forth at different points. I definitely do draw some strength from a relationship with God, but it's much more spiritual at this point. And I think I've never really talked to my parents about that path for me. My dad's still very active in the Catholic Church. My mom's very much in the Methodist Church. And so it's not something that, it's something that I talk within my own circle. My husband calls it my woo-woo stuff, but it's so funny. And his best friend is an empath like I am. And so he'll come over and my husband's like, I'm going to go play video games. Y'all do your woo-woo thing. I'll see y'all later. So it was really, you know, I would always have friends that would tell me, oh my God, you're so mean. Like you shouldn't be, you know, like if I would get a vibe about somebody and I would be like, something's wrong with so-and-so. Something's wrong. And then I would end up being right. And it happened all the time. Like my energy was just like picking up on something. And at first I was told that I was just being mean. And then it became, I'm really reading energies. And it wasn't until I went to a Reiki healing and it was like, you know, like, it was kind of something that I just saw pop up. I think it was like on a Groupon or something. And I was like, what is this about? And it just really was a shift for me. And I felt better. Like I always felt within the Catholic Church and within like organized religion, like there was so much shame around doing so many things that this felt like home. Like I just felt more comfortable in my skin, and I didn't feel like I had to be any type of person other than who I was. And so that was kind of the shift for me.
I love that. And, you know, I think that's really important to talk about because, again, I think we're in the middle of this huge awakening. I know that I can't even tell you how many of the women, and myself included, who, you know, we're really coming to terms with a lot of the ancestral in general, right? Good Lord, I can't talk. Generational wounding that has been forced upon us for millennia, you know, and we're really, and I feel like there's almost two sides to the coin, and it's that side that's the constructs of where we came from and the organized religion. And, you know, one of the conversations, and bless my mom if she watches this, I'm not knocking her down, but, you know, she recently said to me, she said, so when are you going to come back to church? And I'm like, awkward. I'm like, you know, it's like, how do you explain that to people? Because it's not that I'm not afraid of it and I'm not afraid of where I'm at, but it's just like, I'm just not that person anymore. Yeah. You know? And I feel like there's a lot of women that are going through that. And so it's important to have those conversations. So for anybody who's out there struggling, you know, it's important to, again, to recognize what it is that's your truth first and foremost, because like I always like to say, at the end of the day, you have to go to bed with yourself. Like at the end of the day, you are the person you have to report to. So, all right. So
one thing I do want to add, which it didn't occur to me until you just said that. I had a conversation with my dad, and like, he's, you know, very, very, like I said, very, very Catholic, and my daughter's agnostic. She's not really, that's not, organized faith isn't really her thing. And we had a conversation. He's like, she needs to be going to church, blah, blah, blah. Aren't you worried about where she's going to go? And I'm like, my daughter at the age of 17 decided to volunteer as a firefighter and EMT, and is now a firefighter and EMT full-time from 17. Now she's 20. And I'm like, there is zero worry for me about where her heart will go, because she is like, she's a product of somebody pouring in total love to her the whole life. And she's just fine. And it's not about religion. It's about being a good person. Because I think another thing that was difficult for me growing up is, you know, going to church and you're walking up to get communion and you see girls that you go to school with, and they're talking shit about you as you're walking up to communion. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not what God is about. Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah. So I don't have any issues with faith, but I just have issues with hypocrisy, I guess, is my issue with it.
Oh yeah, I understand. Well, something before.
Hi, Sin.
Yeah, I wanted
my
to make
girlfriend Sin from back home.
Oh, I want to say this before we shatter. Before we move into my next question. So something I read yesterday, and it was in regards to the LGBTQ community and really and God, like that relationship, and talking about how you know, the word, the Bible and all that is utilized as a weapon against these communities. And really, you know, we're talking about, if everybody is made in the image of God, then we have to take into consideration that God might not be a certain gender, you know what I mean? Or certain anything. And it really makes you think about stuff like that. And again, and yeah, like you said, it's back to that hypocrisy. You know, I've met so many people who claim to be of the faith, and it's just like, you know, it's it's just rampant. So, and I don't want to go any further because I don't want it to be that we're tearing down anybody, because I'm not. I have a, you know, I have a really great relationship with God, and I'm very grateful for the people who are in religions that have poured into me. You know, I think that those are that's so important, you know, but you know, it's easy also to get lost in that sphere and to believe that if you don't fit in the box that you're going to burn in hell, you know?
Yeah. So, my stance is like, I'm just going to love everybody. And when they get to God, if he had an issue with whatever they did, then he can take care of it. He does not need my help. He does not need my judgment. We're good.
I saw that somewhere. It's like your only job is to love people and let God sort everything, sort everybody else out.
Yeah,
all right.
That's totally my stance.
One of my favorite questions to ask, you know, and you really hinted around a lot of it, you know, going through the burnout, working the 60-hour weeks, but what was your shattering moment? And your shattering moment, to me, like your shattering moment, my shattering moment was at the end, when my marriage completely dissolved. I remember being in the room the night before it completely went to shit. And I got on my knees and I said to God, I'm like, listen, like something is not working. Like I knew in my gut that something was wrong and it was bad, but I was like, I just want to have blinders. I just want to ignore it. Like I didn't want, you know, I had 2 kids by 2 different dads. I said, I didn't want to be that mom. You know, I was stuck in those boxes, and I said, God, I said, take it out of my hands. Like just shove so much stuff in front of me that I can't rationalize my way out of it. Like make it so that my eyes are open and I cannot no longer be blind. And the next day it was just boom, boom, boom. And my marriage was over in the span of like 24 hours. I was like, okay. And I had no idea what I was doing next. Yeah. Right. You're talking about just like breaking apart. Like everything I knew to be a truth up to that moment was just like done. I was done. So tell me, what was your shattering moment in your life?
My shattering moment was definitely the night that I left her father. So I was very much 9 months pregnant. He was an addict. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Boozing and pills, and you know, I don't have an issue with marijuana, so that was no big deal to me. But definitely booze and pills, and I was very much secluded in Florida when we were living, and I wasn't working, and he was the sole breadwinner or whatever you want to call it. But we had kind of a fallout when we were living in Georgia, and when we moved to Florida, it was really to get me away from the only people that I had to have my back, because we weren't going to go back to New Mexico. It was that isolation thing that abusers do, and I didn't know it at the time. But he got home that night and was wasted, absolutely drunk. I don't know how he got, you know, drove home, whatever. And I was asleep. You know, you're 9 months pregnant. You know, like you can't fucking sleep. Everything's miserable. You can't move. You got to pee every 12 minutes. Horrible. And I had finally found like a comfortable place to sleep. And he came in and he was like yelling at me, and that's not my fucking baby, and what's wrong with you? And he was like, I should just fucking kill you and this kid, and then I'll have to deal with none of your shit. And he came at me, and I remember thinking, I'm gonna fucking die. Like I literally had that moment where I was like, this might be where it ends. And I remember just thinking, like, please just save me. Like, please put me in a place where I'm okay. And as he was coming at me, we had a really tall bed, like a big poster bed. As he was coming at me, he slipped on his own feet on carpet. I don't even know, like, it can only have been God that made this happen. He slipped, fell, hit his head, and passed out on the floor. Cold. Done. And at that point, I had only told my parents, like, maybe a month before that I was pregnant. They didn't know. And I basically was like, come get me. My dad and my parents were actually at my brother's college graduation. And so my dad got on a plane from California, flew to Florida in the morning. I was like, little Miss Susie Homemaker, made him breakfast, ironed his clothes, got his vitamins out. Good morning, babe. You were a little drunk last night. Like I totally played the part. And I knew my dad was on a flight to come get me. And I basically like sent him off for the day. And the minute he left, I was just bagging all of our shit in plastic bags, in big garbage bags. And I was like, I got to fucking hurry, because I didn't know how long he was going to be gone. And so I was just kind of like shoving them and throwing them down the stairs. And my dad wasn't going to let me pick anything up. And he showed up, and I was like, I don't even want to fall asleep in Florida. Like, I want to be in Georgia before we stop. And so we hit the road, and we didn't pass him when we left, but I probably missed him by 20 minutes from when my dad picked me up to when I actually physically left. And that was, for me, that was my shatter moment, because I was like, I'm now owning the fact that I'm going to be a single mom, which was something that I was taught to be very shameful about. And I was owning it and being like, we're going to be okay. We'll fucking figure it out. And that was, yeah.
That's a really powerful thing to own. You know, it really is.
Yeah, it was crazy.
You know, it wasn't until the divorce, you know, and being a mom of 2 kids, I remember saying that loud, like, I remember having the thought, like, who's going to want me now? Like, kids, 2 fathers, like, who's going to want them? And I said, I should never have to feel that way. And so, you know, it's a really rough journey. So for anybody out there, you know, that's definitely something you should never feel ashamed, especially for something that's not your fault. So Cindy says, totally feel and understand the same about our church.
Yeah, we grew up in the same church. We've been told that we're going to hell so many times. And I always tell those who say that, don't see me at church. Well, hope you prayed for me. God, I love her. I've known her literally my whole life. Her grandpa lives around the corner from my parents. So like, it's a really small town. And so it's just like, it's like one big family.
Yeah. And I think that's always the one thing that I do, like, that I think that kept me in the religion for so long, was just the community that comes with it. You know, I mean, the hypocrisy aside, because that tends to be rampant. I always felt loved in a lot of them. You know, you always felt taken care of. So I want to stop a moment, and because this is something, and I hope I got this right. So you said you survived thyroid cancer. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. I'm 9 years out of it. Yeah. It's funny because I don't even think about it until I have to write a bio, and I'm like, oh yeah, that too. Like, it becomes, you know, a side note versus my story. And I think it was they say now that they don't know that I actually physically had it. My markers were high enough that they were treating it, but it's one of those, like, I don't talk about it a lot, and it's probably a stupid reason, but I think I've lost people to cancer, and I've lost 2 relatives to cancer within the last several years. And mine was never something that I thought I was going to die. And I didn't tell anybody that I was going through treatment. I had moved back home with my parents, and nobody knew that, you know, except for just a couple of people, because I just didn't want, like, because of my daughter and because of our history. And I just didn't want to look broken. I didn't want people to talk about me. I didn't want people to look at my daughter and feel sorry for her because, you know, her dad had passed away, and then she was with me, and like, oh, I hope your mom does, you know, like, you just never know the things that people are going to say to your kid. And I didn't want them to scare her like I was going to die, because I'm like, that's not an option. Like, I don't care what this is, we're going to fucking beat it. And so I didn't share that. And so it's kind of a side note now, something that I
Oh, you guys. We may have lost everybody. Terry, what's up? Been there. I know you have. We're going to give her a moment to see if the Wi-Fi works. Real life, you guys. It happens, everybody. Well, hopefully she comes back. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. So, yeah, I want to take a second to highlight. Oh, wait, no. I want to take a minute to highlight something she said that was really interesting to me. So that feeling of being broken and not wanting to be broken. I really want to highlight about why sometimes that piece of yourself that you're going through, that piece that feels broken, is so necessary to dive into, because as Terry, you were an inspiration. Yeah, frozen, right? You know, there is a message in that brokenness. And it's not that you're broken. You know, Rumi had a wonderful quote that says the wound is where the light gets in. You know, that brokenness that you feel is really the space for your healing to begin. So for anybody who's out there, if you're feeling broken, and I resonate with that completely, because at one point I really felt that I too was broken. You know, that again, I was going to be that single mom of 2 kids who was going to want me then, right? You know, I didn't feel like I had a lot to offer the world. And really that was just because, you know, I didn't see the worth that I had within myself. So for anybody who's out there who's struggling with that, if you are, you know, tell us about it in the comments. You know, what was that journey like for you? What did you have to, oh, hold on. Oh, the power just went out, you guys. Oh gosh, I am so sorry. All right. Oh, no. She's back, you guys. Hold on. Maybe. Oh.
I get my text.
Yeah, I got it.
The power just went out because we're like in the middle of a storm or something, which, you know, that would happen a day that I'm on this and then I have to record. So that's weird.
Is that your husband?
All right. Yeah, that's my husband trying to figure out what's going on.
It's all right. It's okay. I was just talking about the brokenness and what it was like to, you know, feel like you're broken and feel, and, you know, really it's, I said, there's a Rumi quote that you're reminding me of. It's like, the wound is where the light gets in. You know what I mean? Oh, and then Terry says my 1 year anniversary from the big event is Saturday. And, that's pretty nuts. I, you know, like I said, I remember when Terry came on and she had like a total, like had to leave another state. Like I remember watching the whole thing happen, you know, and her just feeling like, and I talked about one of the messages I gave was like, your mess is in your message. Your mess is in that brokenness that you feel. Your brokenness is somebody else's survival guide. And, you know, I remember telling her one time, I said, you know, she said I was in this group and I was talking about my journey and they were telling me like, you know what, it's a little bit too messy. You know, maybe you should just like tone it down a little bit. And I said, no, man, fuck that. Be messy. Be messy. Be all the messy pieces you need to be because somebody needs that. You know what I mean? Oh, look at that. And thank you, Angela. I'm so happy to see you on here. All right. So let's talk a little bit. Well, first I have 2 questions left. So when did you realize your purpose?
When I kept getting confirmation, I'm stubborn. I'm one of those, like, until I decide I'm good and ready, I'm not going to do something. And I did obviously a lot of coaching when I was with the previous company that I was with. You know, I had a team of several hundred girls. So that was kind of the first bit of it. And then I started getting asked, hey, can you work with so-and-so? Hey, can so-and-so pick your brain about how to do this?
Oh, we might be completely frozen, you guys. It happens. Some things happen, you guys. Hold on, we'll give her a moment. You guys, if you have any thoughts, questions, please drop them in the comment box. All right, you guys. These things happen. This is why I like to keep the show live and real, because I want everybody out here to see that done is better than perfect. Shit happens sometimes, you guys. I'm sitting here talking to you right now and I have horrendous heartburn. All right. Things happen. And I like to show this as a reminder that, you know, we don't have to be perfect to do something. And here we are.
I think it's trying.
It's all good. I was just talking about, it's like, you know what? I like to do this. This is why I do this live. Like, you guys, I like them to see the real life aspect of it. In fact, someone asked me, they're like, when you do the TV show, because I'll be coming off Facebook and YouTube Live, like I won't do this part anymore, so I can switch gears. And they're like, you know what you should do? I said, well, first and foremost, I'm gonna take a fucking break because I'm tired. Okay, I'm gonna take a fucking break. Are you there? Oh, I just thought she was smiling at me, y'all. We might have to reschedule, you guys. It's all good. I was gonna keep talking. But you guys, we might have to reschedule. Let me message her. You there? Okay. We'll make this quick just in case you go out. I'm going to have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Well, do you want to finish talking about when you realized your purpose?
Yeah. So, I kept telling, one of my mentors, I was like, I just feel like I need to move on from what I'm doing. I feel like it's something else. And she was like, you're supposed to talk on stages. You're supposed to, coach and consult. Like, she's been telling me this for like 7 years. And I was like, I don't know. And I think it's, I let my own insecurity dictate what I felt like I could and couldn't help people with. And then when I started kind of dipping into helping people with different things and utilizing all the thousands upon probably $30,000-$40,000 in trainings and therapy and all the things that I did, and seeing that I've really helped some of the people that I've worked with. And I was like, okay. And then I had, a couple of years ago, went to an event, and the lady was like, she goes around and kind of like tells you about herself. And it was one of those weird things where they do like the speaking in tongues thing, which was a little odd for me. I was like, she didn't do that to me because she could totally tell I wasn't down for it. But she came up and she was like, can I just, say a prayer over you? And I was like, okay. And at that point I was kind of like enjoying the group, but I wasn't really sure what it was about because I didn't know anybody. And so she holds my hands and she's like, okay, close your eyes. And she was like, I don't know why you're so scared to share your story, but the women are waiting and you have something to tell that will help others. And I was like, I was kind of irritated because it was more confirmation, and I just wasn't ready yet. And then I went to another event like a year later, and the letter that she wrote me, when she prayed over each of us, was exactly the same thing. And then it was like, yeah, I'm like, all right, fine. fine. We'll just, yeah. So, yeah, it's been rocky.
All right. So second to last question. So what made you decide to start a launch podcast?
So a girlfriend and I we're going to start one on together. And then when we really sat down and thought about what she saw as her vision and what I saw as mine, they were very different. And so I had never thought about doing a podcast. And so even though she and I decided to do our own, she's launching hers soon as well. It spiraled into something where I was like, I could actually do this on my own. My husband's like, why don't you just do your own? I'll help you get it started, blah, blah, blah. And it was trying to figure out what my message was going to be. And in the beginning, I was overthinking what it was instead of just shooting from my heart. And that's someplace that is hard. It was hard for me to get to. But I noticed that even when I would share things on social media that were less than, buy my lip gloss or whatever the hell people put, I got way more interaction. And when I had a pregnancy loss in 2018, the amount of love that I got from women, from me sharing what I had gone through, was kind of like a eye-opening to me. It was like, when you're really authentic and when you really connect with people, you have such a better impact and such a profound impact. And so that was kind of podcasting started, and I'm so happy I'm doing it. I'm exhausted, but it's like good exhausted.
It is a good feeling. It is
a
phenomenal feeling. That's definitely a fun journey to be on.
It is. And getting the women that send me messages every morning, like, I was telling my husband last night, I'm like, of course anybody loves to wake up to a message that says somebody bought this and you got a PayPal deposit or whatever. And that's great too. And that's a piece of my life as well. But getting to wake up and hear, oh, I listened to your podcast last night and I read this and this happened to me, and I just couldn't believe that you've been through it too. Like, that connection piece, like I cry all freaking day because I get all these messages and it's amazing. And you realize like you're really helping people step into their own stuff. And I love that.
Well, it's like I said before, your struggles and your overcome and your survival is, that journey is a page in somebody else's survival guide. Like you said, I agree. One of my favorite things to get, and I always put them at the most like random times, I'll be questioning like, maybe I don't think the viewership is where it should be, or, am I interviewing right? And all these other, and I'll start getting within my own head, and someone will send me a message and be like, I watched your show. And like, I have this one woman, and she said, I have been trying to leave a domestic violence situation for 3 months. And she said, I watched your domestic violence panel and it like smacked me right in the heart. And she's like, please keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. I was like, okay, God, I get it. Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. I put a post on my Instagram today where I'm like, I literally just have like tissues tucked in random places because I freaking cry all day. And it's amazing cries. It's like, connection and true love and, you know, just really pouring into people. And it's amazing. But yeah, it's emotional. It's super, super emotional.
Well, and it ties back to, so one of the things I remember getting into this for, and it was something that I wanted to keep myself grounded in, and I don't know what keeps you grounded in what you do. I'd love to know after this. But one of the things that I said, no matter what the show does, no matter where it goes, I always remind myself that I do this for the one woman, and it's the one woman who's just going through total shit in her life, and she just happens upon the show. And whatever and whoever is on there says something, or she watches it and it just pivots her life in a way that totally changes the trajectory of where she was going. And I said, if I can show up for her every single day and it hits that mark, then I'm successful no matter how many people I have come on. And I think that that's been like my massive guiding principle with this. And it's always kept me very grounded in what this show has the potential to do. And so I always like to remind people, like, if there's anything you do, just choose a person to show up for, whether that's even just a remnant of who you were. Look for the person you used to be, show up for that person, remember what you needed when you were that person, and provide that for that person. So, you know, I'd love to know, what are your thoughts? Like, what is it that keeps you grounded in what you're doing?
I think, and I talk about it on my podcast, like on my intro episode, like I think as women, we go through so much and we share our stories within each other, you know, within our best girlfriend relationships. But telling people all the messy pieces is what's going to help somebody. And I think so many of us, because we've been taught to be shameful of the hard times that we've gone through, that they don't talk about it. And so seeing just in 7 days, the amount of stories that I'm hearing from women, I can't even imagine where my impact will be in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. And I'm one of those people that's like a total mushy, and it used to be annoying to me that I would cry all the time and I wanted to hug everyone and I was like super extra. And I realized like that's a strength, and like there are not enough people that are that way, that just tell people they love them and show up and check on people and look out for others. And I love that. I love that what I do now, I get to do that more and more and more. And it's so awesome.
Amen to that. I love that. And you're right. There aren't enough. I used to not be one of those people. I'm getting better at it. I won't say it's like my first natural reaction, because there was a meme. It's like how I am comforting people, and it's someone standing from a distance, like someone's throwing up over a toilet and they've got a brush, a broom. And like, and I said,
they're there.
Yeah, like it's going to be hard. But, you know, I always used to blame it on the fact that it was that I came up in very male-dominated industries, and it was very much like a suck-it-up deal kind of thing. Like, I've definitely remember, like, cutting the tips off of fingers. And like, here you go. Here's some gauze and some duct tape. Now go back to work. And, you know, so you kind of take that on as your environment. And it's like, but that's not opening your heart. And I recognize, because I used to always say I was not a hugger. But at the same time, when I wanted to be comforted, I wanted to hug.
Yeah.
Like, so maybe you are a hugger, right? Yeah. Now you know, at the same time, I'm also like, maybe ask people, like, that's just me. Like, cause some people are like, don't touch me. Like, don't touch me. Like, okay. All right. Well, hey, you know, air hug. All right. So here's my favorite question. The one I told you, that's always a surprise. So if you were to get up off of a stage and you just got done speaking, and someone comes up to you and you're like, God, your story is so inspiring to me. I'm going through something similar, whatever direction of life that would be resonant to what you went through. What are 3 pieces of advice you can give me to continue moving forward on my journey? What would those 3 pieces be?
First of all, therapy. Like, I grew up thinking and being told therapy was like this weird, don't do it, blah, blah, blah thing. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without it. Like, there's just no way. My husband and I wouldn't have the incredibly healthy, happy relationship we have. My daughter and I wouldn't have healed from all we went through. And taking away the stigma of really digging into your shit and figuring it out and piecing it together and really healing it. That's number 1, hands down. 2, find someone in your life that cheerleads for you. And it doesn't have to be your husband or a partner. It could be somebody like your best friend that's just like reminds you who you are, because I think we are always so hypercritical of ourselves. And when we go through things that we go through, we're scared to tell other people because we don't want people to judge us or to look at us funny or to think we're broken or to think we're damaged or whatever. And finding somebody that's going to just be in your corner and just fucking cheer for you. Because I think when you're on a journey to heal, you need somebody like that. I didn't have it, and it took me a much longer time to heal because I didn't. And third, dig into something that is your that feeds your spiritual piece. And it may be religion for some people. For me, it's Reiki healing and stones and all my woo-woo stuff, sage and all of these things that just kind of bring me back to myself. And you got to find what that is for you. It used to be food for a minute before I got myself together, and that's obviously not the right one because then you but yeah, I think those would be the three that I would say. And get a mentor, get somebody that's going to not only cheer for you, but it's going to help you, show you your blind spots and show you where you need to grow, because nobody wants to know the things about them that they don't like. But if you don't face that stuff, you're never going to get to a better space with it. And so you got to do it.
I'm into that. Yeah. Again, healing, or the wound is where the light gets in, you guys. The wound. I look at it like when you're, if you don't do the work, it's like trying to heal a wound that's got gravel in it. The wound's going to heal one day, but it's probably going to get infected. And then you're going to have all that junk living in there, and it's going to potentially just constantly come back and cause problems. So it's the same thing with healing, you guys. It's the same process. All right. So tell everybody about where they can connect with you. Tell everybody a little bit about your podcast and how they can find that, so you can continue just blasting off into outer space with this thing.
It's been so much fun. I definitely, if you listen to my intro episode, I'm please add me on social media. I'm horrible at Instagram. I'm trying to get better. It is not my platform, but I'm doing the best I can, just because it's such a great platform to get to know more people. But yeah, you can add me on Facebook. It's Gabi Girl, and or that's Instagram. Gabi Girl 34 is Instagram, and then Gabi Garland is obviously my Facebook page. My podcast is the Resilient Heart Podcast, and it is on all the platforms. It's on Apple iTunes. It's on Spotify. You can actually watch it on my web, or listen to it on my website as well, which is gabigarland.com. And there you can also send me a message. I'm launching a coaching program in the fall, and I'm just going to take all of the crazy that I've learned between coaching women and growing and learning myself, and really just pouring it into a program that I'm so freaking excited about. It's going to help so many women get over their blocks and get over their shit, and really create the lives that they have wanted. Because I think working from a place of brokenness, when I started my business, I took a lot longer to get to where I needed to be because I didn't deal with it initially. So I want to help people get out of that mindset so that they can really soar.
I love that. Working from a place of brokenness. I think that's a powerful place to start. All right, you guys. So thank you so much for coming on.
Sorry about the technical difficulties, I guess,
Shit happens, man. It's why I do this live. I think it's a really important aspect to it. Other than I love people being able to come on. A big, huge belief of mine is that, when it comes to conversations in the world, we don't always all have to agree, but we can be productive. And we, in order for us to have productive conversation, I think everybody needs a spot at the table. Especially women, man. So one of the things that I really like to bring to this is the possibility of everybody being able to have a seat, but also encouraging people that sometimes you can't just wait for the seat to be given to you. You have to take the seat and bring it up to the damn table yourself. So it's really, it's really just a powerful space to show people also that it doesn't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. Shit happens sometimes. I've literally had people pull out on me 2 hours before the show, and I'm like, show has to go on. All right, it's just me. I've done 2 shows that way, and one of them was actually a show with my daughter. It was halfway through, and I can share this because she did the episode. So my daughter had just come out of a group home for a mental health problem, serious mental health problem.
Okay.
And she came on and she did the show with me.
Wow.
And so you guys, I think that's also, just before we get off here, because I want to let you go, I know you got something to go, just also a testament to the healing. My healing has allowed my daughter to start her own healing.
Yeah, I told her when we were kind of going through the thick of the shit for us, I was like, I don't want you to stunt who you're supposed to be because we don't heal. Like, then you let what has happened to you stop you from that, and that shouldn't have the power. Like that's not going to win. So yeah.
And ladies, especially mothers, it starts with you. If you want your daughter to heal, you have to recognize it requires you to heal first.
Mm-hmm.
So ladies, hollering at you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. It is my birthday this weekend, so y'all will not see me.
Happy birthday.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm telling you, 32 is going to be freaking kick ass, man. I can't wait. I love it. I love that I'm connected to so many amazing women like you. Like, I just can't wait to see everybody grow. It makes me so excited.
Oh,
like,
I know. It's awesome. So awesome.
But you guys, stay tuned for next week for another amazing panel, another amazing story. I'm really excited. Please stay tuned as I continue developing the website. That should be out soon. Stay tuned for this show. It's going to be, like I said, October 1st. Look for this to be going live, streaming 24/7 on demand. I'm really excited. First episode is about child trafficking. And as a mom, yeah, like I'm talking. I said the catchline for my show is I'm here to rip the lid off of every can of worms they told us to keep closed.
Oh, so, that's good.
Yeah, right up in your face. So you guys keep paying attention. Thank you, everybody who came. If you catch us on the replay, #replay, please feel free to share this episode. Connect with Gabby. Go look up the Resilient Heart podcast on iTunes, all things. Make sure if you guys go to iTunes, also feel free to look up mine, Tough Woman Podcast, but make sure you guys are rating and reviewing and subscribing so that more people get some eyes on these. All right. So thank you guys so much. Gabby, have a fantastic night. See y'all later. You're welcome.